Hello and welcome to the Ocean News. My name is Ismail Iqbal and I'm live from London studio. We bring you the latest developments from around the globe alongside in-depth coverage of the stories. Let's dive right into the headlines. A highly anticipated summit between US President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin yielded no agreement to resolve or pause Moscow's war in Ukraine, although both leaders described the talks as productive before heading home. The two leaders said they had made progress on unspecified issues. Donald Trump said, "We've made some headway," standing in front of a backdrop that read, "Pursuing peace. There's no deal until there is a deal." Ukrainian military intelligence said Russia is preparing to test its new nuclear-capable, nuclear-powered cruise missile and, if successful, plans to use the results to bolster its negotiating position within the West. Andriy Yusov, a spokesperson for the service, issued the written statement before US President Donald Trump was due to hold talks in Alaska with Russian President Vladimir Putin on ending Moscow's war in Ukraine. Russia is preparing for another round of tests of the 9M730 Breveresnik. His statement said, "The purpose of these tests is to validate scientific and technical solutions implemented by the missile. If successful, Russia will leverage the test results to defend its interests in negotiations with the West." Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva said that foreign companies that want to do business in Brazil are welcome, speaking at the opening ceremony for a factory for Chinese automaker GWM in the state of Sao Paulo. Lula said, "Count on the Brazilian government. Whoever wants to leave, leave. Whoever wants to come, we welcome you with open arms." During his speech, Lula criticized the 50% tariffs on Brazilian goods imposed by US President Donald Trump and said that his country is facing an unnecessary turbulence. Brazil's auto exports are expected to grow 38.4% in 2025 compared to 2024, reaching 552,000 units. Data from Automakers Association and Faeva showed last week. Serbia's police used tear gas and crowd control vehicles last evening in Belgrade to disperse anti-government protesters who threw firecrackers and flares at police officers in what is seen as a major escalation of the 9-month-long protests. The protesters gathered in front of the army headquarters building that was bombed in 1999 by NATO. Few hours later, they started throwing flares at police officers. Trash containers were overturned and set on fire. One tree caught fire. The police threw tear gas canisters to push protesters away. US President Donald Trump's wife, Melania Trump, raised the plight of children in Ukraine and Russia in a personal letter to Russian President Vladimir Putin, two White House officials said. President Trump hand-delivered the letter to Putin during their summit talks in Alaska. Slovenian-born Melania Trump was not on the trip to Alaska. Russia's seizure of Ukrainian children has been a deeply sensitive one for Ukraine. Ukraine has called the abductions of tens of thousands of its children taken to Russia or Russian-occupied territory without the consent of family or guardians a war crime that meets the UN treaty definition of genocide. Previously, Moscow has said it has been protecting vulnerable children from a war zone. The United Nations Human Rights Office has said Russia has inflicted suffering on millions of Ukrainian children and violated their rights since its full-scale invasion of Ukraine begun in 2022. Russia must face more pressure over the war in Ukraine, Norway's foreign minister said following a summit in Alaska between US President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin. Norwegian Foreign Minister Espen Barth Eide said we must continue to put pressure on Russia and even increase it to give the clear signal to Russia that it must pay the price for its invasion of Ukraine. A magnitude 4.9 earthquake struck near the east coast of Australia, the European Mediterranean Seismological Centre said. The quake was 10 kilometers deep. It's earlier said the quake, which hit Queensland state, was of 5.7 magnitude. There was no threat of tsunami to Queensland, Australia's weather forecaster said in an alert on its website. The German embassy in Pakistan has expressed grief over the devastating floods and landslides in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Gilgit-Baltistan, which have claimed multiple lives and left several people missing. In a statement, the embassy extended condolences to the bereaved families and wished for the swift recovery of those attacked. Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen said that Israeli leader Benjamin Netanyahu has become a problem, adding she would try to put pressure on Israel over the Gaza war as the country currently holds the EU presidency. Frederiksen said that the Israeli government was going too far. The centre-right leader slammed the absolute appalling and catastrophic humanitarian situation in Gaza, a new settlement project in the occupied West Bank. We are one of the countries that want to increase pressure on Israel, but we have not yet obtained the support of EU members. Those were the headlines. Stay with us as we delve into each story in greater detail after a brief pause.